This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Hello and welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. Thanks for joining us. Sorry we're late. The New York Yankees deadline for reaching arbitration agreements before a hearing, before a filing, before things get nasty. It's today. It's today at 1 p.m. Eastern time. What time is it right now? It's 2:17 p.m. Eastern time. What do we have on the Yankees? We got absolutely nothing. Well, Scott Efros agreed $800,000 settled on a salary for next year. Yankees have less to do than they had to do at one point because they got rid of John Birdie and Tim Meza and Mr. Cortez, who settled with the Brewers. Good for him. But they do still have to take care of Devin Williams, who they acquired from the Brewers. They have to take care of Jazz Chisholm. They have to take care of Clark Schmidt. Are they going to fight with any of these guys? Are they going to extend any of these guys? Probably just a loose deadline. We're waiting on a lot. We're waiting on Vlad Jr. and the Toronto Blue Jays. And that's somebody who, A, that number is going to be huge as hell. B, they're probably going to fight about it because those two sides don't like each other right now. And C, it's going to tell you a lot about Vlad's next destination, which might be the Boston Red Sox. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We were hoping to react to some of the Yankees ARB numbers. We don't have them. We might have them in a little bit, but what we do have are the latest in infield rumors. Since we did our show on Monday, it seems like Luis Arraez less of a possibility. Arenado still not much of a possibility, although he's getting closer to waiving that no trade for Boston, for Seattle, for Detroit. He's got to go somewhere soon, but it doesn't seem like we're involved at all unless we're hiding in the weeds. Jack Curry on tonight, as I'm sure many of you know. We're going to be watching that. You're going to be watching that. We'll know more tonight, but what we do know, names that are being thrown about. We don't like them. Brendan Rodgers, Paul DeJong. We don't like them. They're bad names. They're names of players who are bad fits. They're names of second basemen. Above all else, Jazz Chisholm stays at third. 8 outs above average in 45 games. That's really good. No instincts whatsoever or learning instincts on the fly. It's not in his blood. It's not in anything. It's not in the muscle memory. He's just making it up as he goes along. He was interesting. It wasn't necessarily good. So are we sure we want to do that when he's got a natural position that's also open? The Yankees fielding trade calls about Oswaldo Cabrera not answering them, or are they answering them and pushing back? What's going on? Why would you get rid of more infielders? Why'd you get rid of Caleb Durbin? I know why you got rid of Caleb Durbin, but man, this team is good. Not great. Thanks for joining us. 2 o'clock Eastern, a little bit delayed. But again, if you're subscribed, if your notifications turn on, or if you're subscribed to the audio feed, we got your back. If you're subscribed to the audio feed, then we're not delayed at all. We're arriving at the same time that we usually do. Shout out to the audio feed. We love all your podcast platforms, and we're on all of them. But if you're here on YouTube, we probably are going to be cutting in with some scattered news. Thomas, welcome. This is a bit unsettled, and that sort of smells like the Yankees offseason in general. Deeper, yeah. Better, close. But you're missing some stuff that you need, and you got another month before pitchers and catchers report. And we're lucky that second basemen don't report on February 11th because I'm not sure we'll have one by then.
Yeah. Everything is baseball to me. After looking at all the other sports, and look, we've covered all different kinds of sports throughout our careers, Adam and I, and baseball is just the most disorganized by far. The deadlines are shoddy. The front offices are very much not proactive. Like, look at this deadline today, for example. The arbitration deadline for teams and players to submit filings was 1 p.m. Then we're told it's a soft deadline and more than half of the news is not out there. Then when you just sit back and say, okay, can understand why this might be going over the deadline, then you think to yourself and you say, wait a second. No. These players were tendered contracts in mid-November. There has been over 2 months for them to file a salary. So the fact that there's a soft deadline, B, not at least an agreement or anything closer to what the fans need or the teams need at this point, and look at the way the offseason has gone. The winter meetings were expected to be big. They were like medium low. And now we're dealing with free agency and trades lagging into January and February for like what feels like the 5th year in a row. And it's not supposed to be like this, especially with big name players. Like, I understand guys are going to float around in free agency or guys are going to be dangled on the trade market for longer than expected. But like, to have all these big names still available in January and last year you saw all those guys fall into February, and it ended up being bad for most of them. It's just the league needs a complete about face. Every other league has even the trade deadline stuff with MLB. Like there's shit that comes in an hour after, 2 hours.
You have to prepare, like for people like us. I mean, I hope everybody loves the sports media logistics podcast, but we're trying to schedule writers and figure out how to budget our time to write content around the trade deadline. And a trade could happen an hour after the trade deadline. And all of MLB is just like, yeah, no, it's weird. It's weird that we did that.
It's not even that. If you're a fan and you're like, okay, great, the deadline's won, I'm going to get all my news then. And then like you think you have the news, and like 4 hours later, you're like, oh, I guess there's more news. It's just not. It's not a calculated approach.
And I even keep talking about how this offseason, like, is going at a relatively solid pace, especially compared to the last two where Ohtani held everything up, leading into Yamamoto holding everything up. And so, we'd get a deal every 36 hours during December after the winter meetings. And I was like, you know what? Everyone complaining about how this offseason isn't moving quick enough. Like, there's a deal a day. We got stuff to talk about. How many big names are left? But then here we are that we take the Christmas break essentially. And we've got this hard deadline today that nobody ascribes to. Information's supposed to come out at 1:00, but it drops at 11:48, and then it drops at 2:12, and the Yankees still don't have any names and numbers out there except for Efros. And I look up and it's January 9th, and I'm like, all right, we all got back to work last week. Like, and to think that they're, okay, well, we got most of the big names done. Well, did we? Because we haven't resolved Arenado. Alex Bregman's still on the market. Anthony Santander is still on the market. Tanner Scott. Somebody tweeted the whole unresolved bullpen picture recently. And I know the Yankees are looking at Andrew Chafin and Tim Hill, and that's sort of where they're limiting themselves. But you look at the names still available on the bullpen market. I think Chris Cotillo put it out, and he was just like, oh, by the way, these are people who are still available, in case you forgot. It's like Scott, AJ Minter, Kirby Yates, David Robertson, like 25 deep of Phil Maton, 25 deep of guys who you'd be like, I'll take him. That works. I'll take him. Good bullpen guy. You can have good bullpen guys right now for between $3 and $9 million a year for between 1 and 3 years. Like, where are we? This last 2 weeks of silence and today's missed deadline on top of it has definitely added to my agitation in absorbing this MLB slate as a whole. And Alex Bregman still floating on the market is the one that maybe affects us the most, because Pete Alonso has not signed either, by the way. I think maybe a lot of us have forgotten that because he feels like a Met, and we know he's probably going to be a Met, but he has no deal. He's January 9th. He has no deal. The Mets and Pete Alonso are playing chicken. Alex Bregman appears to the Astros. Everybody thought, and Robert Murray, I've talked to a lot, has said that he left the GM meetings in November under the assumption he was going back to the Astros because of the way Dana Brown talked about him, because of the relationship the two parties had. I had the same assumption. The Astros offered him $156 million over 6 years. He spat at that. The Astros did not let him hold up their offseason and said, fine, we're going to do more of our bidding elsewhere. We'll get Christian Walker. We'll get Isaac Perez in here. We'll trade Kyle Tucker. Overall, I think they got worse, but still, they said, okay, 156 is not enough for you. Great. We're going to move on. Now the ball's in your court. The Red Sox want Bregman. The Tigers want Bregman. We don't, I guess, even though I do, and even though I think John Heyman earlier this week was very careful in his discussions of the Yankees and Luis Arraez because he wanted to keep the Yankees open as an option for Bregman, because this is a little Blake Snelly, right? Yeah. Where I don't think the Yankees have been in on him for weeks. I'm interested to see what Jack Curry says tonight. But last year they weren't in on Blake Snell at all. And then all of a sudden, because Blake Snell's candidacy lasted into February, we had like a 72-hour period where there were fake reports about the Yankees and Snell getting closer and commiserating on a deal. I think this process is going to end like that one. I don't think the Yankees are going to get Alex Bregman, but I think we're a couple weeks away. We know he wants $200 million. We know the Red Sox have not gotten themselves comfortable to get there yet. We know the Tigers aren't comfortable there, even though they probably should be. The Tigers are the ones that should just be blowing his doors off, but they're not. And as long as no one is, we're going to start, I think, given another week of silence, we're going to start getting Yankees reevaluating, especially if we're able to trade Marcus Stroman, which is the number one thing that we want to do. Unfortunately, everybody knows that we want to do it. If we do that, we're getting a Yankees Bregman rumor the next day, as long as he's still available. And it seems like he is. But I think I would say we are trading Stroman. I would say we are getting mentioned alongside Bregman, but I do not think there's any chance that we sign him. Even though I like it. There are flaws in every infield option. He's the one I like the most. And we're going to be going over names later in this show where the crowd watching and the listeners are just going to be like, I thought this is a Yankees podcast. We're not doing like the last minute Twins shopping. Like what Jorge Polanco is now like the pie in the sky option for the Yankees.
Yankees arbitration day. One last lamenting here. Should be easier than it is. John Birdie's not here, non-tendered. Tim Mason not here, non-tendered. Nestor Cortez not here, traded. Jose Trevino not here, traded. Trent Grisham agreed to a new deal back in November. So JT Brubaker agreed to a new deal in December. So who the Yankees have this offseason is Devin Williams. I guess that one might be a little bit difficult, but then again, he missed most of last year. So usually those arbitration cases are easier because there is no tangible argument. He pitched 24 innings last year. That does not warrant a massive raise.
And he's never been here before.
He'll get
a logical raise, but you're going to fight the Yankees after they traded you? Woof. Okay.
Exactly. Jazz Chisholm, $6.9 million, played a full season, solid player, league average, athletic. Like, again, there's nothing groundbreaking here that should be holding anything up. Scott Efros somehow agreed for less than $900,000 than he was projected. Then you have Mark Leiter Jr. at $2 million, Clark Schmidt at $3.5 million. Mark Leiter Jr. was bad. Again, shouldn't be hard. Clark Schmidt missed 3.5 months. Don't know why all this is hard. Done with arbitration. I hate it. Other infield options for the Yankees. They're not sexy. Bob Nightingale said Brennan Rodgers, who I guess would be a nice defensive option.
My brain broke this morning, though, because there's a great Brendan Cuddy write-up in The Athletic, too. Brendan Rodgers was a Gold Glover 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead.
Wasn't he at second base, though?
Yeah, at second base. And hand up, everybody. I don't watch 162 Colorado Rockies games. Definitely haven't since Arenado and Story left. Big Tulo guy, but not so much his Yankee career. But I have not watched every Brendan Rodgers game or rep or a supercut. Did I look up his highlight videos in the past couple of days when I realized that he was involved with the Yankees? Yeah. But he was a Gold Glover from 2 years ago. And so I was like, a defense-first alternative to Luis Arraez. That makes sense. Obviously, Arraez just settled at $14 million with the Padres. So Rodgers was non-tendered because I think he was projected for like 8, and he's going to get like 5.5, I think. So, okay, save 8.5, $9 million. I understand. Former top prospect. He was like a top 10, 15, 20 guy in baseball. He was Marcelo Meyer before Marcelo Meyer. Had to get a little Sox burn in there. But never really panned out. Had a good year 2 years ago, but offense just is not there. And so I was like, all right, a defense first option, former top prospect who never hit his ceiling. Feels like Aaron Hicks. Feels like Didi Gregorius. Brian Cashman used to do this a lot from like 2014 to 2018. Is it our favorite thing? No, but you can at least see why it's happening. And then Brendan Cuddy today wrote about Rodgers and the connection and the fact that the two sides have talked lately and said he's not known as a strong defender. And then I was like, all right, well, in that case, then what the fuck is this? Like, he can't do that, and he can't get his OPS plus above 100, and he's in Colorado, and the surface numbers are underwhelming in Coors Field, then this is not the move, and it would shift Jazz Chisholm back to third. I'm not getting I would rather have Paul DeJong. Like, I'm not getting an underwhelming option to move Jazz Chisholm out of position again.
Yeah, the option is, again, someone like Luis Arraez who's going to absolutely upgrade your offense in a massive way, or you get a stellar – I don't even know. Or you have to get an all-around player. I'm not fortifying the second base defense to still leave third. The option should be to fortify the third base position because then you have an easier solution to just shift over a better second base option. Nonetheless, and now you see the Oswaldo trade rumors from this morning – or at least teams calling about it. It's a reflection on the Yankees. Why are teams calling the Yankees about Oswaldo Cabrera? It's because he's a talented player who deserves more playing time, who is underappreciated by the Yankees. And other teams are like, oh, well, They're looking for other infield replacements, and they already have one on the team. Let's see if they just want to give them to us. Because then what's the option? You sign Brendan Rodgers, and then he's the second baseman? Why? Or do you trade for Brendan Rodgers, I guess? Is he a free agent?
Yeah, he's a free agent now. But, I mean, so Oswaldo Cabrera, again, underappreciated, has not gotten the shine, 107 WRC plus against righties over a defined period of time. Are the Yankees now the organization that doesn't value their players properly, where other teams are looking at them trying to poach talent in the way that we think the Yankees are that, right? We're always like, ooh, would be nice to get Tristan McKenzie in our system. Would be nice to get this pitcher in our lab. Would be nice to cook with Brendan Donovan. Meanwhile, the Cardinals are locking up Brendan Donovan. We have no infielders, and teams are trying to get Oswaldo Cabrera from us to further thin out the depth. I don't think the Yankees are silly enough to do that, to listen, but I didn't think they were going to trade Caleb Durbin either, and it turned out they were gassing him up. So on Oswaldo Cabrera, DJ LeMahieu starting on opening day, that platoon being the plan, I don't like it. But I like it. I keep finding things that I like that more than trading Oswaldo Cabrera. It's been a long time. I keep finding things I don't like, but I like more than the DJ Cabrera platoon. I'm like, no, I don't like that. I don't like, $60-70 million, but I'd rather start Nolan Arenado than DJ LeMahieu. And then I'm like, Luis Ariz, I don't think I like that either. Like, the range isn't there. Slow, bad base runner, everything we had with Glaber, but we lose the power. Obviously, the average is huge and the OBPs, I can get used to it. I like it more than DJ and Cabrera, but finally I found something I like less than DJ and Cabrera, and that's trading Cabrera and leaving your cupboard even barer. Can't be real.
Yeah, and if you look at Cabrera's stats, like, you might look at Cabrera's stats and be like, well, I mean, why wouldn't the Yankees trade him? He's not very good. The stats, they're very underwhelming when you look at them, but again, he's a flexible defensive player who can hit righties. The problem is that he doesn't get consistent playing time. So the Yankees do the opposite of what they should do, right? They sprinkle their young guys in and give them infrequent playing time and don't allow them to develop properly, which then leads to you looking at Oswaldo Cabrera's numbers and saying, what is this? Instead of having a veteran needs to be in that role. A veteran who has played Major League Baseball for 5+ years, who understands that role, who understands the game in general, would be better suited to play 105 games and log 300 plate appearances and put up solid numbers. Oswaldo Cabrera, a developing player, it's not going to help him. He needs more consistent playing time, and quite frankly, he proved it in 2022 when he burst onto the scene his rookie season. Took a step back in 2023, but it was more of the same this past year, where there just wasn't enough space for him, or there were days where it's like, why isn't he in the lineup? This is a perfect time to give X, Y, or Z a rest day. Why is he not in for Anthony Volpe? Don't understand. Why does Anthony Volpe need to play 162 games? He doesn't. So the Yankees are they devalue prospects like they are the best at devaluing prospects, and Oswaldo Cabrera is one of those. But yeah, I mean, we could be reaching the point where teams are looking at, oh, well, the Yankees are underutilizing this guy, kind of tanked his value. Let's see what they're thinking. The flip side to that, which is unfortunate, is that the Yankees will never trade a floundering asset. They will sit on it until it is absolutely dead in the water, which is what they've done essentially with Oswald Peraza. It's essentially what they've done with Miguel Andujar, Clint Frazier. The list goes on and on. So, we're looking at another iteration of that with Cabrera. But in my opinion, unless you are, again, signing a Bregman, trading for a Luis Ariz, doing something massively impactful that is going to improve the infield picture at large, you just go with the status quo. There's no bringing in Brendan Rodgers, who couldn't get his numbers up in the most hitter-friendly park in the league. You're better off just playing Oswaldo at second base and seeing what you have, or using him and Peraza at second base to see what you have, and then making a bigger splash at the deadline when other players become available based on how teams perform. But I hope that's the approach, but based on what we're hearing from these reports, it seems like it's going sideways.
Yeah, or Yorbit Vivas. I mean, I think the one of the best summaries of this that I've seen comes from Randy Wilkins, who just tweeted this during the show. I'm confused that the Yankees knew they didn't want Gleyber back during the season, but somehow they're left looking at guys like Polanco and Rodgers.
Yeah.
I get that the market is bad, but wouldn't there have been targeted guys to go after? Yeah, they were definitive that they were a no on Gleyber. And I'm a no on Gleyber. I don't second guess that decision at all. I don't want to run Gleyber back even at 1 year and $15 million, knowing the other needs on this roster and knowing how skittish they've been about Marcus Stroman's money. But if you make the decision in early 2024 or arguably at the 2022 trade deadline, okay, I don't see a future for Gleyber Torres here, and as soon as we can get off this contract, we're going to, then who are the targets behind him? Because in my opinion, it should be Alex Bregman. They don't think the same way. They're never going to do that, not at least until they move the Marcus Stroman money. But after that, do you have any targeted pieces, underrated options? Like Andres Jimenez got dealt. Did you want him? I mean, I kind of didn't have any interest there, but there's got to be, you would think the Yankees are acting with so much intention on Gleyber. There's got to be someone they have their heart set on, and there just isn't, unless it's Brendan Donovan and he's not available, or they're waiting until extension talks break down, or they're going to Tommy Edman Brendan Donovan at the trade deadline this year. But we know how that works. They earmark somebody, and then the Dodgers get them. Yeah. And then we get the report that the Yankees liked that person too. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you liked that person. You got to get out of your comfort zone and acquire them. Otherwise, this was all pointless.
Mad pod. We're fucking mad, dude. Is this the first
mad pod? I mean, I've given the Yankees a lot of grace this offseason. I'm just rolling my sleeves up now. Like, these are not all the pivots I would have chosen, but Devin Williams just named the best closer in the game. I don't love the cost of acquisition in terms of throwing Durbin in there, but that's how trades are made. I get it. You got to do that. So I like Devin Williams. Max Fried overpay. Again, I don't care about years 6 and 7 and 8. You can go shove those where the sun does not shine, preferably, otherwise known as Citi Field. I don't care about the overpay there at all, like the player. And if for whatever reason it doesn't work out, I don't even think that's an incorrect take. I still think it's a good move. Cody Bellinger, versatility. I love it. Paul Goldschmidt, I preferred to the other 1 year first base options, and I like flexibility, but not having intentionality here or not getting Andrew Chafin and Tim Hill done. I hate that. And crucially, what I hate maybe most of all is the inflexibility being shown around the Marcus Stroman contract, which was just signed last year. I don't hate that they're trying to trade Stroman and don't view him as a sixth starter at this price. Stroman, John Heyman said on his stream yesterday, might be a half-year pitcher at this point in his career because of his build, because of the way he's aging and the part of the curve he's at, and that is fine, and that is probably true. And he helped the Yankees last year in the half year where he was ready, willing, and able and fully healthy and at the peak of his powers. And it's not a bargain at $18 million, but that's approximate value. I mean, what you paid, you're paying $27 million for Max Fried. Stroman is a worse pitcher, but he's an all-star level pitcher in the recent past, and you don't have to commit that many years to him. It's a slight overpay. Maybe I'd rather have him at 16 mil based on what he's become, but 18 is fine. It's the kind of deal you can live with as long as you're not going to let it hamstring you from doing other things. The Yankees are doing that. The Yankees regret signing a moderate short-term deal 1 year ago. And at the time we said, this is what they need. I'm not sure he's the, I'd rather have, this was during the heart of the Blake Snell rumors. It was like, I'd rather have Blake Snell and rather have him for 2 more years. And I think he's a better player. And I think he's likelier to have a higher upside and he'll age better. But I get Stroman. It's fine. And if the vesting option, this is a deal. You're not paying him for 6 years. You're paying him for 2 with an option. As long as you don't let it stop you from doing other things, this is the kind of thing that a team like the Yankees should be able to do. Take a short-term chance on a mid-tier pitcher who can eat innings for you. And then year 2, the Yankees are already like, oh my God, if only I hadn't done that thing a year ago. No! They are letting the most moderate contract hold them back from productivity. And I don't think Stroman's holding it against them. But as a member of the fan base, they've got literal dead money. They've got Aaron Hicks money. Like they're paying Aaron Hicks this year to join the Live Golf Tour and fucking attend 4th of July celebrations at the Trump White House with Brooks Koepka. But this is as close to that literal dead money as you can get because of the way they're treating it. And Marcus Stroman should be should be based on the other contracts. We're seeing $15 million for Alex Cobb.
Yeah.
How much did Matt Boyd get? Like, there should be teams out there who are like, I can get 140 valuable innings from Marcus Stroman because the Yankees just got that. And maybe I give him July and August off, and maybe he only pitches April, May, June, September, but that is fine, and that helps me, and maybe he's my number 3 in October. And the Yankees are screaming, we want you to take him. We want you to take him so badly, which is the worst, sweatiest way to approach the offseason. This is not like a distressed asset. This is a solid pitcher who'd work better on other teams. And the Yankees are, A, not selling him correctly at all, and B, woefully regretting a normal baseball move they made 1 year ago. So I hate this.
The Yankees are acting like a mid-market team with this. They went a little bit above and beyond to get Stroman to I mean, they didn't even, because many people last offseason were projecting Stroman to make 20 plus a year. He ended up making 18 on this deal. But again, it's just the Yankees choosing the wrong player. If they went up, and I don't know if this gets the deal done, but if they go up to $175 million for Blake Snell last year, they get a better pitcher. They maximize their 2024 chances, and then they're not in a position where they feel like they have to overpay for Max Fried this offseason, and they're not in a position where they say, oh my God, we have to get rid of fucking Marcus Stroman because if he hits this vesting option in 2025, now we have him for another $18.5 million in 2026, and now this is a nightmare. We can't do this. But it's just more history of them choosing the wrong player. They let pitching, and look, I know every time they go to October, at least in the Aaron Judge era, it's been the offense's fault. It's wholeheartedly been the offense's fault. They lost those games in Houston in the 17 CS by just scoring no runs. They couldn't score a single run.
Ever scoring.
And the pitching held down the fort with a really not good staff. It was just not a good staff, and they did the job. And if you look at and again, through that window, 2017 to 2019, the Yankees didn't bother upgrading the starting rotation. Or, oh, wait, actually they did. You know what they did? They traded for J. Happ and they extended him, and then they regretted that contract because that was too big. And that was a mid-tier. Yeah, mid-tier short-term contract that they regretted. So what else did they do? They relied on Domingo Germán for 5 years. They sat on Justice Sheffield as an asset, and instead of trading him for Manny Machado, they traded him for James Paxton. They signed Luis Severino to an extension when they didn't need to, and then they bought his team option the year after he had an okay season, and then he had the worst season of any starting pitcher in baseball. They killed their relationship with Jordan Montgomery for reasons I still don't understand. They signed Corey Kluber. And then at that point, after wasting all the bullpen money on Aroldis Chapman and Zach Britton, and then those guys finally come off the books, they say, oh, well, now we have money to spend on starting pitching, so let's go after Carlos Rodon. We supported it, but again, the wrong pick. Would have been the wrong pick if I made it. It's the wrong pick that the Yankees made it. So now you're stuck paying Carlos Rodon, and then you, over the years, let the Red Sox step in front of you for Chris Sale. You fail on the Zach Wheeler trade, and then you pass on him in free agency. You fail on a Blake Snell trade, and then you fail on a free agent acquisition for him. You fail on a Pablo Lopez trade. You fail on a Corbin Burns trade, and then you don't sign him. Not that I was advocating for them to sign him, but they tried to trade for him last year, and the Brewers wanted too much in the Yankees' eyes, and they let him go to a division rival. You signed Marcus Stroman for more money than what Nathan Eovaldi got from the Rangers the year before he won them the World Series. So it is bad player personnel choices by the Yankees. It's awful investing. And then they sit here and then they cry about it. And they try to get they try to rush to get these contracts off the books. And again, the offseason has been going on since November 6th. It is January 9th. I understand that they have made moves, but the fact that we're still we're waiting for arbitration figures. The Marcus Stroman trade situation is lagging, even after all these other mid to lower tier options came off the market. Like you said, Alex Cobb, $15 million, Matt Boyd, $30 million for 2 years. All these other guys are signing deals in between 12 and 20 million. Marcus Stroman is tradable. It's just the reality of it. The Yankees are probably sitting there and they want exactly what they want, or they cried too much behind the scenes and teams are now saying, oh, well, we have the leverage. Like, we're not giving you anything that you want in this deal. Like, you don't want him, so why are we going to bend it any which way? So this just comes down, and again, I didn't not support the Marcus Stroman. I just thought it was signing. I was just confused as to like why they were making amends with a guy who they had multiple public spats with, and they were all of a sudden just like, okay, yeah, like we'll absolutely do this. Let's do a 2-year deal at like a little bit more of an elevated rate, and we'll give you a chance at a third. And it's like, what? After you wouldn't give Blake Snell like $30 more million, after you passed on like, even in forget pre-Aaron Judge era, they couldn't sign Max Scherzer. The Nationals got that deal done. The Yankees couldn't get that deal. Like, you just
John
look
Lester.
at the Yankees treat starting pitching, or at least they have until Garrett Cole, they've treated starting pitching like it's a bargain aspect of the roster, or like it's something that should not be the highest possible asset. It is the most expensive asset in Major League Baseball. There is nothing close to it outside of a Juan Soto or a Shohei Ohtani hitting the market, which is an anomaly. We haven't seen those types of players hit free agency in back-to-back years, maybe ever. So the fact that it took the Yankees this long to spend on starting pitching, and then they finally start spending on starting pitching, and it all sucks, or most of it sucks or is underwhelming, is just, it's more of an indictment for what they have become or what their thought processes are. So once again, late to the game, you decide to open up your pockets to spend $162 million for Carlos Rodon. Wrong. $218 million for Max Fried. I don't not support it, but I could see it being wrong relatively quickly, although I hope it doesn't. I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna support it until I can't anymore. Short-term deal for Marcus Stroman. Wrong. Short-term deal for J.A. Happ. Wrong. Luis Severino extension and then picking up player option or team option. Wrong. I don't know how many more times. And then you let all these other better players go. You don't overpay on the trade market when you need to get a guy. You rarely overpay in free agency. Like, yeah, they did for Garrett Cole, but that was almost like a really dumb overpay. There were two teams in on the bidding. It was them and the Angels. And they outbid the Angels by like a ridiculous, like $80 million, and they didn't have to do that. So that's how desperate they were at that time. And I'm thankful for Garrett Cole. I'm thankful that he's here, but the Yankees recruiting, free agency tactics, trade taxes, whatever, it's just all so off, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, the Stroman Happ thing is the comparison that works.
Crazy.
Just because they, again, signing J Happ at the time, we said the exact same thing. We were like, he had a great year last year. He's a mid-tier starting pitcher. He started game 1 of the freaking ALDS that year at Fenway Park. Oh, that didn't work. Crazy. And then we were all, after that season, when he was very valuable down the stretch, we were like, how are they going to replace Happ if they let him go? It might make more sense to bring him back and then be additive and bring somebody else in. This is between 18 and 19 too, not the Garrett Cole offseason. We were like, Happ is a piece. Happ is a 4. If Happ is starting game 3 of a DS, you don't feel bad, but you need an ace, and then bringing Happ back might be nice. And then they bring Happ back, and we were like, okay, fleshing it out. Thank you, Yankees, for doing this. And then they didn't do anything else, and then they were scared of Happ the whole time, and then they manipulated his starts to avoid certain incentives, and then they brought him into a playoff game as not a starter, and then he was like, I don't want to do that, and they were like, too bad, buy in, you got to buy in, and then he was like, I don't, though, don't tell me what I have to do, and then he lost the playoff game, and then they lost the playoff series in 5 games. That was great. And this feels like the same deal. Nestor Cortez was sort of bristling like Happ last year, too, when they made him a closer briefly, and then he was good at it for one outing before he hurt his shoulder. So he was like, I was the opening day starter and they made me do that. And I had to shuffle my routine around. And then I became a closer. Why am I out of the rotation? Hey, either way, I'll do whatever it takes for the team. And he said, going into the playoffs, if I don't pitch next year because my elbow gives out, I'll do whatever it takes for the team as well. But obviously this is not my preference. And then he comes into the most unenviable situation in World Series history, blows a game. It's his final pitch in the uniform, and now he's been traded. So I hope we don't keep running through these starters who we make 2 and 3 year commitments to that are perfectly reasonable, who are mid-tier options, and we run them out of town or run them ragged while they're here and change what they do best Or, I mean, again, $18 million for Stroman as a sixth starter. It's, you're going to need a sixth starter. It's going to be Will Ward.
And they can pay it.
They can pay it.
They can pay it. And not only this, you sign Marcus. If you are kicking yourself for signing Marcus Stroman, it's your own fault. You signed a ground ball contact pitcher to pitch behind a defense that sucks. Defense sucks. So I'm not saying Marcus Stroman was ready to take home the Cy Young Award in 2024, but he probably had 13 or 14 bad starts, and I would say 3 to 5 of them probably shouldn't have been as bad because there were innings that remained open because the defense made a stupid play, or that you couldn't turn 2 when you were supposed to. All these things that lead back to exactly what happened in the World Series. So the problem is not Marcus Stroman. The problem is where you're allocating the resources, the talent that you're picking, and the player profiles that you're picking to align with the current player profiles on the roster. So this was never probably meant to be with how it all came together. In theory, it should. In theory, the Yankees should say, you know what? Just for example, this offseason, Justin Verlander, Giants offered you 15. We'll give you 20. Come here. We want you in the back end of the rotation. We want you influencing our younger talent. We want you, picking Garrett Cole's brain, having a good time, helping out our ace. And, maybe we'll get 20 solid starts out of you. Maybe we'll do that. I don't know. Would that have been a right decision? I don't know. It remains to be seen. Everyone is now out on Justin Verlander because he had an injured season. To 2023, a 3.2 ERA, 2022 Cy Young winner. So now now the Giants are paying the 2022 Cy Young, and maybe it won't work out. And I'll be happy to eat my words later on. They're paying the 2022 Cy Young winner $15 million for 1 year, and the Yankees are paying a sixth starter who relies on good defense behind him to succeed $18.5 million per year. So you tell me who's wrong. It's the Yankees.
Those Yankees, and they're not the only ones being precious with money, by the way. We talked about Bregman, and the reason he's still here is because the Boston Red Sox can't decide if they want him or not, and Alex Cora does, and management doesn't, and the Tigers do, but maybe not enough, and why isn't anybody getting this done? And Bregman is a strange fit in Boston, but not as strange a fit as Nolan Arenado, a way worse fit, who might be pulling to the front of those proceedings. Why? Well, apparently they might be scared about paying anybody to fill an infield role this year long-term because they may or may not think they're getting Vlad Guerrero Jr. next year, who A, wants $450 million, B, that is currently $100 million or more apart from the Blue Jays in extension talks, and C, has apparently told good friends that he liked to join the Boston Red Sox. Bob Nightingale, in a column published earlier this week, went as far as to say that if he does not settle on an extension with the Blue Jays, quote, it is likely he is wearing a Red Sox uniform next year. Nightingale then deleted that from his column. And Bob Nightingale, if I can tell you one thing, it's this. You can't just delete stuff from columns, man.
Editor's note.
You're really good at your job, but people see the stuff and then they put it online and then we talk about the stuff. So if you delete it, deleting the stuff becomes a story. He did this with Pete Alonso too. He said Pete Alonso's looking for the Prince Fielder deal. And then someone obviously took him aside and was like, don't type that. That is a crazy amount of money. And he was like, great, I'll just delete it. No one will ever talk about it again. And then the first person was like, no, if you delete it, people will talk about how you deleted it. And then he had already left the room. He closed the door, so he didn't hear that part. But the jersey part, Vlad wants to wear a Red Sox jersey, was deleted. He'll likely be wearing a Red Sox uniform. That was deleted. But regardless, he's going to cost a lot of money. We still don't have his arbitration number. We're waiting for it. There are rumors it's going to be like $30 million. It's going to be like Juan Soto's from last year. The Blue Jays can't get any progress made here, and I'm not sure, hot take, that he wants progress to be made here, because what are the Blue Jays at this juncture? Joey Loperfido and Will Wagner and Bo Bichette, who's also marking the X's on his wall like he's in Shawshank Redemption, chronicling how long it takes to get out of prison. He's also a free agent at the end of the year, so I think this smoke is legit, and I think Red Sox fans who are skeptical of their franchise spending money at this juncture have every right to be, because they have not earned your trust and goodwill since Dave Dombrowski left, because they look like the Yankees too, where they say, we're not going to, you enter the offseason going, there's no way they're going to leave holes. Like, I don't know if they're going to spend exorbitantly. I don't know if they're going to sign Juan Soto, but they're going to get 4, 5, 6 pieces and be better. And then you get to this point, and you're like, Jorge Polanco and Paul DeJong. Like, it's been similar in Boston for the last couple of years. So I don't forgive them for being like, are you sure we're not going to just be interested in Vlad Jr.? But they're the only team connected to him so far. I guess the Mets should be involved there if they don't sign Pete Alonso, but I suspect they will sign Pete Alonso. So at that point, who else is involved? I think there's
Angels, Giants.
I mean, the wild teams like the Angels. Yes, absolutely. The
Giants, Mariners should be involved.
Should be, but won't be.
Yeah, but won't be.
And I know I should be scared. I know I should be like, oh, Vlad to the Red Sox next year. That's going to be a nightmare. But at this point, I'm honestly still in laughing at the Blue Jays mode. I still think it's funnier that Toronto has let it get to this point than it would be for Boston to swipe him. Also, partially because I lived in the world where Boston signed Juan Soto for like 2 weeks, and that was the worst place I've ever been in my entire life. And now everything after that feels like child's play in comparison. So like I was in Boston Ohtani for like 3 days last year, and I was in Boston Juan Soto for like 2 weeks this year. And Vlad, in comparison to those guys, is like, yeah, okay, whatever. I've seen it before. He's a really good player. So I'm still in laugh at Toronto versus Cower in Boston's wake. But I do think he might go there.
I agree. Look, it could always be worse, guys. We're here yelling about stuff like what Toronto is doing, like national columnists or Jeff Passan, Buster Olney, somebody, who was it? Might have been Ken Rosenthal, just absolutely shitting on the Blue Jays because it's like, what are you doing, man? You had it all. You had it all set up. And look, I don't think the Blue Jays did a terrible job. Like they signed Kevin Gausman, they signed Chris Bassett. I think where it all went to shit was when they traded Teoscar and Lourdes Gurriel Jr., and that just made no sense. It made their team worse.
And everyone told us it made all the sense in the world, and then they got way worse. I mean,
they traded a catcher who's probably going to be better than the catching situation they have, and they traded an outfielder who is worlds better off. Like Dalton Varshall's a Gold Glover, great. You still need more. You need to prioritize above average to elite offense over elite defense when you can, or you just trade one of those guys and not all of them. And so I think at that point, that's where they lost it, because remember, Gurriel Jr. and Teoscar Hernandez murdered the AL East, killed the Yankees, killed the Red Sox. I won't count the Orioles in there because the Orioles were irrelevant before they were moved, but if you have players who are beating down on the upper echelon of your division, there's almost no reason to ever trade them unless you're getting an offer you can't refuse. And in either of those situations, the Blue Jays did not get an offer they can't refuse. And what's confusing to me, and if anybody here can correct it, go ahead, but I keep hearing that the Blue Jays have the second richest ownership group in the sport.
People keep saying that.
Where's the money, dude? Where's the money for it? I understand of course they're going to miss out on Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani, right? Those guys are not signing. But you could still either get ahead of taking care of your in-house players. So like Vladdy could have been taken care of 6 months ago, really, if you wanted to, or right after the season if you really wanted to. Someone was saying it the other day. Damn it, I forgot who it was. Oh, it was Steve Phillips on MLB Network. I don't know how true it is, but he was saying he thinks that they could have signed Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for $350 million at the end of the season if they had been aggressive. And instead, what happened is that they saw Juan Soto sign for $800, or Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and his team saw Juan Soto sign for $765 million with escalators up to $805 million. And they said, oh, okay. So yeah, let's call it 450, 500 now. And wouldn't you do the same? Wouldn't you do the exact same? That's what free agency is. It's setting the market for players who are up and coming, ready for that free agency. So now Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has all of the negotiating power in the world, especially if he has another MVP caliber season this year, if he continues to improve on his defense. But I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, where is the aggression from the Blue Jays in terms of, like, you know, we talk about this with the Yankees too. Like, if there's a mid-tier option out there and it comes down to you offering 5 to 10 to 15 more million for them to get them, then offer the money if you have it. Blue Jays are not doing anything. And what are they just sitting on? They're the Joker sliding down a pyramid of money, just waiting for what to come by, because it doesn't get much better than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And if you were going to pay Juan Soto a competitive offer comparable to Steve Cohen, which was apparently the case, then now why not just get this Vlad Jr. deal done? Say $450 million now. We're done. Instead, they're going to leave everything up in the air. They're going to put themselves at peril. So yeah, I'm laughing at Toronto. That's what I'm going to do. Keep laughing.
You guys are in peril. I don't know. Your owner should be richer. If he's rich, then why is he richer? Think about that. Yeah, it feels like you're about to get your lunch eaten by the Boston Red Sox. It also feels like Toronto has a recent World Series because of how much trash they talk, but actually they don't. 1993. It's been a while. So, yeah, we don't have much room to talk on that either, but see ya at the top of the mountain at some point, I guess. Maybe a reload necessary or just more half measures would be great. None of these free agents are coming to Toronto unless you show Vlad Jr. the money and get him signed long-term. If you don't, they're not joining you to be the captains of a rudderless ship. So good luck with all that, Toronto. Thanks for joining us today. You can find us on all podcast platforms. You can find us back here on the show, 2 o'clock Eastern on next Monday. Again, sorry for the delayed start. We were hoping news would break. We started at 2:17. I called it out. The news is late. It's 3:03. There's still no news. What is going on? This is unbelievable. Maybe the Yankees are being skinflint again. Maybe they're trying to extend Stroman to stretch out his AAV, renegotiate. Like 18 this year. That's terrifying. But what if we do a 6-year, $18 million deal and you get paid $3 million a year? How about that? We'll find out what happens in a little bit after the pod. Unfortunately, we'll react to it on Monday. Thank you for joining us. I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. I'm never calling it X ever in a million years. Thomas Carannante, where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes. We are both at the official Yanks Go Yard account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Very important. You'll know when we're going live. You'll get those alerts. Hopefully we won't be late next time. Head on over to yanksgoyard.com. Plenty of content there. We're covering everything wall to wall. When they decide to tell us about the arbitration numbers, we'll tell you. We'll be the first one. We might be the first ones to tell you.
We could break it. We could break it.
We're going to give you the info. We appreciate you guys reading. We appreciate you guys listening. As always, enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern live right here, folks. Have a good one.
College football playoff tonight, college football playoff tomorrow, NFL playoffs twice on Saturday, 3 times on Sunday, once on Monday, and Major League Baseball cannot get Alex Bregman signed. There's a reason that you people, I got a lot of problems with you people. There's a reason that you people are falling apart. This is the biggest sports weekend we've seen in months, and you don't want to be a part of it. Come here, join us. Join the rest of us sports fans, MLB. We are ready for you. Until Monday's show, I'm Adam Weinrib for Thomas Carannante.